What if your next nap didn't just rest your body, but sent you back 700 years? Imagine closing your eyes for a quiet moment and waking to the scent of wood smoke, the scratch of wool against your skin, and the soft cluck of chickens wandering past your straw pillow. No buzzing phone, no traffic sounds, just the hum of a medieval village slowly stirring to life. You haven't time traveled, you've time drifted. And the only thing more puzzling than where you are is how strangely peaceful it feels to be there. You don't remember falling asleep, but you do remember waking up. Not in your own bed, not even in your own century. You open your eyes to soft amber light filtering through oiled parchment windows. The air smells of straw, wood smoke, and damp earth. Your mattress in and stuffed with barley husk squeaks as you shift slightly. A single chicken wanders past your bed, flapping gently as though late for something. Your clothes are scratchy, a tunic of rough-spun wool and trousers singed with a fraying rope. You feel oddly calm. The world is quiet. No hum of electricity, no buzz of notification. Just the steady cluck of hens, the distant bleating of sheep, and the bell from the village chapel tolling in the distance, one slow, sonorous chime to mark the hour. A woman walks in Alfreda, she says, gesturing for you to rise. Her accent is thick, her linen coif dusted with flour. She hands you a wooden bucket and points to the well. Somehow, your body remembers how to walk barefoot across uneven stone. Outside the village yawns awake. Thatch-roof cottages huddle together like sleepy sheep. Smoke curls lazily from crooked chimneys. A child races past with a wooden hoop. Someone is already singing a slow, droning tune about saints and soil. You carry water from the well, your muscles aching in unfamiliar ways. The bucket is heavier than your modern brain expected. By the third trip, you don't care. You're breathing easier. It's only been an hour. You don't know how you got here, but somehow, you're not in a hurry to leave. The sky above the village glows with pale amber light, the kind that makes the clouds look like sleepwalking sheep. You step outside and feel the early chill cling to your woolen sleeves, but there's no rush to do anything. No traffic, no schedules, just the gentle pacing of life. The village itself is small, no more than 30 houses, all timber-framed with slumping thatched roofs that make the buildings look sleepy, too. Smoke rises lazily from chimney holes, blending into the mist. You hear soft murmurs, greetings in unfamiliar accents, gossip traded like bread, and children giggling as they chase each other with sticks. Someone waves at Yuan, old man with a face like wrinkled parchment. He's feeding geese with yesterday's crusts. You nod back, unsure why your presence causes no alarm. But here, your silence seems natural. You follow the sound of hooves. A farmer, boots muddied and tunic patched at the elbows, leads a shaggy horse toward the fields. Behind him, others gather to begin the day's work. A few stack hay, others rake leaves. No one rushes. Their movements are deliberate. At the edge of the village lies a communal garden. You pass rows of turnips, onions, and cabbages, all glistening with dew. A woman named Edith is picking herbs and humming a slow tune with no clear melody. She offers you a sprig of lavender. You take it and breathe in, forgetting the scent of city bus fumes or energy drinks. No one asks who you are. No one minds that you're here. You're part of the Humnawa, quiet breath in a centuries-old rhythm. The sun climbs slowly, as if reluctant to disturb the calm. Somewhere, a bell tolls again. and a flock of sparrows launches into the sky like a sigh. The sun now settles into its place above the low rooftops, pouring soft light onto muddy paths and sleepy faces. Morning meals begin less a feast, more a quiet tradition repeated day after day. Alfreda hands you a bowl. It's wooden, smooth from years of use, and inside sits a hunk of coarse rye bread, dense, slightly sour, and speckled with seeds you don't recognize. She pours a splash of ale over it, not the fizzy kind, but a cloudy, homemade brew that smells like rain-soaked grain and burnt apples. "This'll warm you," she says, sitting beside you on the low bench. Her spoon is a carved bit of horn, polished like river stone. You eat slowly. The bread is chewy, grounding. The ale adds a faint bitterness, surprisingly comforting. Others join you. The table is long and uneven, legs propped up with folded cloth. A boy bites into a raw onion like it's an apple. An elder woman slurps turnip broth. No one talks much, just small grunts, hums, and sighs. One man, eyes half closed, cradles a boiled egg with a reverence usually reserved for sacred relics. You realize no one looks at clocks, they look at light. Breakfast begins when the shadows are long and ends when they aren't. Someone passes around a shared hunk of cheese, wrapped in cloth and smelling like damp hay and a touch of regret. It's sharp, salty, and strangely wonderful. You take a piece and chew slowly, your thoughts drifting like the kitchen smoke curling above. No phone, no news, no cereal boxes with mascots or barcodes. Just this, bread soaked in ale, the sound of gentle chewing, and the slow promise of a day beginning in peace. After breakfast, the village begins to shift. It's not loud, not hurried, just quietly determined. The sun creeps higher, brushing golden light across furrows and cobblestone. Today is a workday, as is every day. Alfreda hands you a wooden rake. It's splintered near the handle, its teeth stained with old soil and straw. You're assigned to the field's edge, where fallen leaves gather like secrets. Your feet crunch softly along the path as you join a line of villagers, already raking, weeding, and watching the clouds float. You rake slowly, not out of laziness, but because the rhythm feels right. Scratch, pull, breath. A child nearby picks stones from the earth with quiet concentration, lining them up on a log like medieval currency. An old man repairs a fence with nails forged by hand and a hammer that sings when it strikes. You begin to sweat gently, not the hurried kind, but the kind that comes from becoming part of the land's rhythm. There's no sense of urgency, no list to complete, just the sun above, the soil below, and tasks that will always wait until tomorrow if needed. By midday, you're asked to help card wool. The fibers cling to your fingers like sleepy cobwebs. A woman shows you how to stroke the carding combs gently, like coaxing dreams into line. She doesn't speak much, just hums a tune that sounds older than the hills. Lunch comes quietly, barley porridge with a splash of goat milk and a single dried plum. Everyone eats together, seated on logs, stones, or knees. Conversations are soft, often nonverbal. A glance, a nod, a shared grunt of effort. You learn to sharpen a scythe, mend a basket, and carry timberall done in gentle repetition. There's no rush here. Even work is slow. Even effort feels like part of a lullaby. As the sun tilts low, shadows stretch long across the fields. You smell firewood being chopped nearby. You wash your hands in a trickling stream, that doesn't care how clean you get. And just before supper, you find yourself smiling, not because the day is done, but because you're still inside its slow and sleepy spell. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long amber shadows across the village paths, it's time to meet the animals. Not the polished pets of modern homes, but the clumsy, calm creatures whose very presence is the heartbeat of daily life. Alfreda walks you to the barn. It's crooked and smells of hay, earth, and something sweetly sour like milk left out a little too long. Inside, several cows stand patiently, their eyes slow blinking, as if they've mastered the art of eternal sighing. Your task, milking, a wooden stool, a pail, and two very large animals who seem unimpressed by your existence. The first cow eyes you, flicks its tail lazily, then settles. You kneel, tentatively, hands uncertain. Alfreda nods, gently, just like stroking a lullaby from the earth. Milk begins to flow, steady, warm. The barn is quiet, except for soft plops in the bucket and a chicken pecking at stray straw nearby. Beyond the barn, pigs snort and shuffle, rearranging mud as if it's furniture. Chickens scurry with purpose known only to them. One roosts proudly atop a half-buried bucket. Another seems fascinated by your boots. You help scatter feed grain, kitchen scraps, a mysterious mash with hints of turnip and thyme. The animals gather in a slow parade. Geese honk, ducks whisper. A goat named Merrill chews thoughtfully on a rope she's not supposed to touch. There's no rush, no clamor, just the rising sound of crickets outside and the softened weight of twilight settling in. You lean against a post and watch the animals settle. Cows lie down like ancient statues. Chickens nestle into corners. The barn breathes around Uwid creeks. Feathers rustle, and time folds into itself. Tomorrow, you'll feed them again, and the day after. But for now, you've earned a warm bowl of stew and the quiet comfort of creatures who dream in straw. There's a certain kind of silence that only exists in rural evenings, not empty, but full. It hums softly with the flutter of moth wings and the rustle of something small in the grass. The sky is streaked with burnt orange, fading into deep cobalt. One by one, stars appear like shy children, peeking out from under a curtain. You sit on a low wall by the cottage, with a blanket across your knees, and listen. Distant laughter spills from a nearby courtyard, echoing faintly against the old stone walls. Crickets keep their own rhythm, a syncopated beat that plays with the gentle hoot of an owl somewhere unseen. Alfreda joins you with a mug of something warm and spiced. She doesn't speak at first, just watches the horizon. This part of the day, she finally says, is when stories return to their owners. You nod, unsure what that means, but liking the sound of it. Children pass by with glowing lanterns made of paper and twine. One carries a small drum and taps it gently as they walk. The lanterns sway, casting dancing shadows on the path. There's music ahead, someone strumming a stringed instrument and singing in a language so old it feels like wind itself. You follow the sound and find a small gathering. Villagers sit in a circle around the fire, faces lit with gold, and tell tales handed down like heirlooms. Each story is a thread woven into the fabric of the night. A young girl recites a legend about a fox who loved the moon. An elder shares a memory of the war and the time the fields were silent for weeks. You stay until the fire is embers, until the songs turn to whispers, until the only thing left is night. Back at the cottage, sleep comes slowly but kindly. You dream of lanterns, stars, and the fox who chased moonlight across the rooftops. At dawn, the village feels different, softer, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. Alfreda wakes you with a gentle rattle of dried lavender in a pouch. "We're going collecting today," she says. But not just plants, we're gathering stories. The herbal path begins beyond the vegetable beds, winding into a grove where sun fingers filter through tangled branches. You carry a basket. The air smells of moss, loam, and something sweetly green, maybe sage in bloom. Alfreda points out each plant with reverence: yarrow for wounds and courage, chamomile for dreams and restless hearts, stinging nettle, which bites but heals, valerian root, the sleep giver, honeysuckle for matters of love, she says with a wink. She shows you how to harvest with care, ever taking too much, always thanking the earth. You learn to listen. Some plants seem to hum with energy, while others sit quiet and dignified. Beneath a willow, you find a small altar stones, feathers, and a half-burnt candle. Alfreda kneels and touches the ground. "This is where I made my first healing poultice," she murmurs, "for a bird with a broken wing." Back at the cottage, herbs hang from the beams like botanical chandeliers. The kitchen becomes a blend of sense-permit, thyme, lemon balm. You crush leaves in a stone mortar, mix infusions, and stir tinctures that shimmer like twilight in glass jars. Every bottle is labeled not just with its name, but with its story. "This one," Alfreda says, holding a dark phial, "is for grief that comes in waves." Evening returns with tea brewed in a cracked ceramic pot. You sip and feel warmth spread through your limbs, as if the herbs remember your name. The village awakens early. There's an excited buzz in the air like bees, sensing spring. You wake to the sound of carts rolling over cobblestone and voices calling greetings that hang like music in the air. Alfreda hands you a basket lined with cloth. "Trade well," she grins, "and remember, everyone's selling stories, not just wares." The market square is alive. Stalls burst with produce, golden peaches, twisted carrots, bundles of herbs tied with twine. A woman offers cheese wrapped in leaves. A boy sells carved wooden toys, each one with a name. At one corner, an elder sits cross-legged, offering riddles in exchange for apples. "Solve mine," he says, "and I'll give you a tale that's never been written." Nearby, a man with bells on his ankles sells bundles of dyed wool. You touch one, it feels like a sunset stitched into yarn. Alfreda barters for a jar of honey, using a handful of dried rosemary and a tale about the time she met a talking turtle. "It told me," she says to the vendor, "that kindness can turn rocks into bread." You trade a handful of chamomile for a painted mug. The merchant smiles. "This cup likes tea and secrets," she says. "There's music, always music, fiddles, drums, the occasional whistle. Children weave between legs, chasing ribbons, or pretending to be wolves. Someone releases a cloud of doves, and the village pauses in awe as they flutter skyward like paper folded in prayer." By noon, your basket holds little aplomb, a spool of blue thread, 2 buttons shaped like moons. But your heart holds more. 100 faces, voices, bits of laughter like bright marbles in your pocket. When the stalls finally fold and the sky softens into dusk, you walk home past doorsteps cluttered with dried flowers and chalk drawings. Alfreda hums a market song, low and steady. Inside, you hang the moon buttons on a nail, a small token of a day stitched with magic. Outside, rain begins softly, like someone gently drumming their fingers on the roof of the world. Inside, the cottage changes. The light dims, scents sharpen, and the rooms seem to settle into thought. Alfreda hands you a knitted shawl. When it rains, the house speaks, she says. You walk slowly through each room. The walls hold whispers. The floorboards groansome with age, some with personality. There's a spot near the kitchen that sighs each time you pass, like it remembers a dance once held there. Another crack near the window chirps, as if birds nested nearby long ago. You sit near the hearth, the fire's low, but the warmth isn't just from flamets, from memory. Alfreda opens a drawer and pulls out a leather-bound book. House diary, she explains. Each guest writes a piece. What they dreamed, what they heard, what they learned. Inside are pages inked with wonder, a child's drawing of a cat that glowed in moonlight, a poem from someone who only stayed one night, but dreamt of a meadow that didn't exist. A note. The window spoke Latin, not fluently. You add your own entry. I heard rain speak in stories, and the door hum a lullaby I almost recognized. Later, Alfreda shows you the attic, dusty, quiet, filled with trunks and forgotten jars. She runs her hand along a beam. This crack, she smiles, that's where the storm of '82 kissed the house. It begins to thunder, not loudly, but enough to make the windows shiver. You sit by one and watch the outside blur. Inside, everything sharpens. The house feels like a living thing, like an old friend telling you stories between heartbeats. As night falls, the rain eases. You curl beneath blankets. The house settles too, and together you sleep, full of each other's secrets. The morning is crisp, the kind of air that makes leaves shiver and laundry flap like flags in forgotten languages. You follow Alfreda through the back gate, into the orchard where birds have made a council of branches. Time to speak with the sky, she says, handing you a pair of binoculars and a small notebook marked with feather stamps. She teaches you to recognize wind shifts not just as weather, but as intention. East wind, curious and quick, brings gossip and chance meetings. South wind hums warm tales of affection and new growth. West wind, moody and nostalgic, carries dreams in fragments. North wind is sharp and secretive, often hiding warnings in rustling trees. Then come the birds. A raven circles once, cries out, and heads north. Someone is keeping a promise, Alfreda says, interpreting the call. A finch dances above the apple trees, an omen of surprise visitors. A white dove lands near your feet, feathers fluffed against the chill. She pecks the earth, then glances at you, as if delivering a message no one else can hear. You learn to mimic calls not perfectly, but enough to greet the skyfolk with respect. Alfreda has a book of bird dialects, passed down from a relative who once married a cloud, briefly. Later, you sit on the cottage steps and write what you've witnessed. The wind twisted through me like ribbon. A thrush sang my name in syllables I didn't know I had. At dusk, a heron glides over the village, silent, elongated, deliberate. You watch until it disappears behind the hills. That one, Alfreda whispers, guards the border between today and tomorrow. You nod, feeling quieter than usual, as if everything around you has been trying to speak for a very long time, man. Now, finally, you understand the first few words. It starts with a discovery. Alfreda hands you an old, brittle map found behind a loose plank in the cottage pantry. The ink is faded, the paper smells like time, and in the bottom corner is a symbol crescent moon curled around a well. Not just a well, she says. The well, the one that listens. You set off after breakfast, following the scribbled clues, past the thorn trees, whisper to the stones, turn left where the wind tilts the grass. It feels less like navigation, more like a riddle told by a dream. Eventually you reach a clearing. At its center stands an ancient stone well, choked with vines and lichen. A carved rim runs with symbols you don't recognize, some like feathers, others like musical notes. Alfreda runs her hand over them. This was our old wishing well, but not all wishes were kind. She drops a small pebble inside. It falls silently. No splash, just a hollow sound that feels thoughtful. You find fragments nearby. A rusted spoon, a piece of ribbon tied in a knot, a dried flower pressed between two stones. Each has weight, meaning a memory anchored to someone's story. Alfreda hums an old tune and invites you to listen. Close your eyes. Some people hear voices, others see flashes. Some just feel something shift. You try. The air stills. The earth feels closer. You hear laughter, or maybe crying, a thread of emotion pulling gently behind your ribs. You open your eyes, and the clearing feels brighter, or maybe older. Alfreda places a candle on the well's edge. We remember. That's all the well ever asked for. Before leaving, you scratch your name on the rim knot carved deep, just lightly etched, a reminder that you passed through. The hillside twinkles, even before the stars emerge. Lanterns woven from reeds, silk scraps, and glowing berries are strung between poles and trees. The entire village climbs the slope in a quiet, reverent procession. Every person carries a small light. Every light holds a wish. Alfreda hands you yours, a golden orb with swirling blue inside. Speak a hope into it, she says, but only once. You whisper, let all my questions find good homes. Drums begin low and steady. The festival opens with dance, fluid, earthy movements passed down through generations. Some wear masks shaped like owls, foxes, the moon itself. Others wear robes stitched with poems. At the top of the hill stands a great bonfire. Its flames reach upward, licking at the sky, daring the stars to come closer. Around it, the village weaves stories into the night. One tale of a boy who befriended a falling star and learned how to speak comets. One of a woman who planted seeds in the shape of constellations. One of a lantern that burned for 70 years, guiding lost souls home. Children perform shadow plays on stretched linen screen stories of sea serpents and cloud harps. A flute sings somewhere behind a tree, shy but sweet. Alfreda pours you a cup of moon tea, black leaves, citrus, and the tiniest silver sparkles. Sip slowly, she says. It reminds you how big and small you are at the same time. At midnight, the sky opens. Stars spill across the darkness like spilled sugar. Lanterns are released, dozens of them, floating on breath and hope. You watch yours rise, shimmering, carrying your whispered wish into the cosmos. Someone starts a lullaby. The crowd hums along. The fire crackles. The wind hums. Time for a while feels soft and round. You return to the cottage with ash on your sleeve and starlight behind your eyes. The morning mist clings to the windows like silken memory. Outside, Dew turns spiderwebs into silver necklaces. Inside the cottage, the day begins with stillness. You find it tucked beneath the teapot, an envelope crisp, yellowed, with your name written in flowing ink that looks too old to belong in this century. Alfreda sees it and stills. "We haven't had a delivery owl in years," she says softly. "The seal bears a symbol you've seen before, the same crescent moon curled around a well, etched into stone in chapter 11. You open it gently. The letter is short. You are remembered. Keep listening. The past is never done speaking. That's all." You step outside, clutching the note, and standing at the edge of the path is a stranger, tall, cloaked in moss-green fabric. Their face is kind, quiet, familiar, almost. They speak softly. "You dreamed once in a world of light and wires. Now you dream with soil and stars. I came to Askar. You ready to choose?" You don't understand the question, but you nod, because something inside you feels ready to understand later. The stranger smiles, hands you a small vial glass, threaded with gold filigree. Inside is a flicker of light, pulsing gently. For when the veil thins, they say you'll know. They vanish into the mist without a sound. No footsteps, no trace. Back inside, Alfreda places the vial on the mantel. "Visitors like that," she whispers, "only come when stories are about to turn." You sit in silence. The letter, the light, the question. It hums in your chest, calm and curious. Something is shifting, slowly, softly, and the story continues. You and Alfreda leave at dawn. The forest is dense, ancient, veiled in a hush that feels more sacred than silence. Roots twist like secrets. Leaves above shimmer, with a language not quite wind, not quite words. "The threshold was built when memory still had mass," she says, as you walk. Birdsong fades. A clearing appears, the trees encircle it like guardians. At the center lies a structure, almost swallowed by moss. A door, freestanding, unattached to walls. Its wood, dark and streaked with gold. It has no handle, no keyhole. You step closer. The vial from the stranger glows faintly in your pocket. Alfreda hums a tune, low and melodic. A breeze rises, and suddenly you're not sure how you're alone. She's gone. The clearing pulses. You touch the door. Nothing happens. Then, instinctively, you take out the vial and hold it near. The light inside flares, and the door breathes a sigh, or maybe a name, and swings open. Inside is no room, no passage, just a vast sky. Stars arranged in constellations you don't recognize. A single floating stone path leads into the cosmos. You step through. On the third stone, symbols bloom beneath your feet. Memories, not yours, a dancer, leaping over flames. A writer pressing ink to parchment that vanishes as she writes. A child laughing underwater. You keep walking. At the end, you find a platform with a mirror. But your reflection flickers, sometimes you, sometimes someone else. A voice, familiar and new, speaks from the mirror. To remember, you must forget. To know, you must unknow. Are you willing? You whisper. Yes, and everything fades. When you awake, you're back in the clearing. The door stands closed. Alfreda's beside you, knitting calmly. You've changed, she says, without looking up. And somehow, you know, you have. The house on the hill leans slightly west, as if nodding at some long-forgotten story. Alfreda guides you inside, her lantern flickering against floral wallpaper that seems to shimmer subtly with each breath of wind. You ascend to the attic. It smells of lavender and parchment. The air is thick, with time not heavy, but slow. In the far corner, beneath a window framed with ivy, sits a trunk bound in leather straps. Elfrida whispers. It belonged to Lenya, the listener. She stitched stories into fabric. You open the trunk. Inside lies a quilt, folded neatly. Each square is embroidered with a memory. The weeping willow of Chapter 2, the moonwell symbol from Chapter 11, even the floating stone path from Chapter 14. But one square pulses faintly. You touch it, and the attic shifts. Suddenly, you're not alone. Figures shimmer into view ghosts of memory, not haunting, but helpful. Lenya herself appears, needle in hand. You must stitch your square, she says. Only then does the pattern reveal its purpose. A swatch of fabric appears in your lap. You close your eyes and think of the stranger, the vial, the mirror. With each thought, the needle moves, threading golden light through cloth. When you finish, Lenya nods. The story grows stronger. The quilt glows. In its light, the attic fades, replaced by an enormous loom suspended in the sky. Threads stretch to stars, rivers, poems, lives. You see Elfrida as a child. You see yourself older. You see someone you've never met. Yet then a chime. You awaken in the attic. Elfrida's seated nearby, drinking tea. It accepted your square, she says. Now we wait for the unraveling. She hands you a pocket watch. It's ticking backward. Beneath the cobbled square of Hollowmere lies a trapdoor, unnoticed by townsfolk, and strangely unmarked. You find it one evening when the pocket watch ticks a perfect palindrome. Elfrida lifts the latch. It only opens when someone remembers a question they've never asked. She murmurs. Stairs, spiraled downward, carved, not from stone, but ink-drenched wood. As you descend, the air becomes rich with parchment, candle smoke, and something like forgotten laughter. At the bottom, you step into silence, so vast it feels symphonic. Books float, unbound. Shelves weave between pillars of light and shadow. There is no librarian, a desk with a quill that moves on its own, recording your presence. You approach a tome that glows faintly. Its title changes with every blink. The dream you left on the windowsill. Instructions for unlocking the fourth thought, Elfrida. Before she had a name, you opened the book. Words rearrange themselves to fit your gaze. They speak of hollow clocks, the stranger's light, and the quilt's shimmer. Then they whisper something new. The riddle you carry cannot be solved, must be lived. Pages flutter, and a map appears, not of places, but of choices. One thread glows brightest. It leads to an old fountain in the village square. The memory you never asked for lies there. Before you go, you notice a figure at the far end of the library, tall, moss-green cloak. But when you blink, it's gone. Elfrida appears beside you, holding a cup of tea. Found anything worth remembering? She asks. You smile. Something I didn't know I'd forgotten. The village square is quieter than usual. The air feels paused, as if the day is holding its breath. At the center, the fountain trickles a circle of carved stone, worn smooth by centuries. You approach it, holding the map born from Chapter 16, where your choices glowed brighter than paths. Elfrida walks beside you, silent. The water reflects not just your face, but flickers of dreams long shelved. As you kneel, the pocket watch begins to tick forward again. You hear a voice, not from someone, but somewhere. This memory is yours, though you never asked to keep it. You touch the surface. Suddenly, you remember. A garden not from this lifetime. A hummingbird hovering inches from your face. Someone calling your name with a softness you've never heard. A moment lost, reclaimed through reflection. The water dances upward. A shape forms in droplets like handwriting, suspended in motion. When you were not watching, you changed. When you were not asking, you knew. It vanishes. Alfreda smiles. Some truths prefer the quiet route, she says. Beneath the fountain's base, a compartment opens. Inside lies a single sheet of paper, folded thrice. On it, only a symbol. The crescent moon curled around a well, and beneath it coordinates, not of a place, of a time. You feel the shimmer in your bones. The stranger from chapter 13 is near again, though invisible. The next journey isn't to a door or book. It's to a moment. At precisely midnight, the pocket watch stops ticking, then begins to hum. You're standing at the old railway bridge, just beyond Hollowmere, where tracks shimmer with a faint, bluish glow. Alfreda gives you a thermos and a nod. You'll need warmth more than answers, she says. The train arrives with no whistle, just a rush of wind and a sigh that curls around your ankles. It's sleek, silver, and ghostly. No conductor beckons. You step aboard. Inside, the cabin is lined with velvet seats and mirrored windows. Each reflection flickers between past moments and something not quite future. Every seat holds a passenger quiet folk, writing in journals with no ink. One of them glances up and smiles. "Mine's almost done," they whisper. "Yours is just starting." You sit. A tray folds out. On it, paper, a pen, and a single sentence written in delicate script. Some memories wait not to be remembered, but to be finished. You think back. The fountain, the vial, the cloak, the mirror's voice. You begin to write. As you do, the train speeds faster. The stars outside blur into stories untold. A voice flows through the cabin. To write what matters, you must forget the rules and remember the rhythm. The sentence you finish glows faintly. Your page folds itself, then floats down the aisle and vanishes. Someone claps. A quiet celebration. The train begins to slow. The cabin fades into early dawn light. When you step off, you're no longer on Traxure in the meadow behind Alfreda's cottage. The air smells like fresh ink and blooming thyme. She's there, hanging herbs. Some rides, she says, are less about where you go and more about what you bring back. In your coat pocket, a feather. You don't know how it got there, but it feels like punctuation. Hollowmere's observatory stands at the hill's crest, its dome cracked slightly like an eggshell. Ivy climbs its legs, as if trying to reach the stars, too. Alfreda leads you through the oak doors. Inside, the air smells of iron and ink. Dust motes drift like galaxies. The telescope isn't aimed at the sky. It's aimed at a mirror. The stars never need our gaze, Alfreda explains. They need our ears. The listening glass rests on a velvet cushionan orb of crystal threaded with silver. When you lean close, it hums softly, like a lullaby sung in a forgotten dialect. Alfreda hands you a notebook. Each page is blank, but textured like tree bark. Write what you hear, she says. You listen. At first, there's only quiet. Then, fragments emerge. A child whispering, "I saw a star wink at me." A woman reciting names of constellations that don't exist. A sound like laughter echoing from ancient ruins. Your own voice saying something you haven't yet spoken. You write. The notebook absorbs the words, glowing faintly. The observatory shifts, the walls dissolve. revealing an open sky not tethered to time. Constellations swirl, forming symbols from previous chapters. The moonwell, the quilt square, the fountains shimmer. They align into one shape, a spiral. Alfreda gasps softly. The story is folding inward before it unfolds. As you gaze through the listening glass again, one star pulses brighter than the rest. From it, a thread descends, glimmering gentle and weaves around your wrist. A guide is coming, the stars seem to say, not to lead, but to walk beside. The observatory returns to stillness. Alfreda closes the notebook. Next, she whispers, is the chapter where names change and time listens. The eclipse begins quietly, no fanfare, no crowd. Shadows deepen gently, as if the sun and moon are sharing a secret. In Hollowmere, a narrow alley that was in tea there yesterday leads you to an old stone building, the archive. Alfreda places a brass key in your hand. It's only visible when the world forgets to hurry. Inside, the walls curve slightly inward, shelves stacked high with file boxes labeled not by year but by feeling. Joy that nearly escaped grief with soft edges, names never spoken aloud. You walk past drawers that hum when you near them. One opens on its own. Inside, a folder labeled with your name, followed by 3 others, not yours, but familiar. The pages inside are blank, except for an imprint, a single emotion per sheet. You read, a fierce tenderness, a sorrow that felt like clarity, a laugh heard through tears. Alfreda appears beside you, holding a spool of thread. These feelings were yours, she says. You gave them away once. The archive remembers. She guides you to a central pedestal. On it, a parchment list not of names, but of choices. At the top, the question, which version of you will step into chapter 21? You trace each option with your finger. They shimmer faintly. One flares brighter, not louder, not clearer, just truer. You pick it. The archive trembles gently. The folder folds itself, seals with golden wax, and vanishes into a locked drawer marked known. Alfreda offers you the spool. You'll need this for stitching what comes apart next, she says with a wink. The air tastes different now. You sit beside Alfreda in the meadow behind the cottage. The pocket watch has gone still, yet its presence feels more alive than ever. Above you, stars are no longer silent. They murmur gentle thank yous and stories not yet written. The quilt from the attic wraps around your shoulders. The vial's light flickers safely on the mantel. And somewhere deep beneath your skin, the train still hums a song only you can hear. You've walked through pages made of wonder, Alfreda says, handing you a warm cup of cinnamon tea. But remember, the story never truly ends. It just changes voices. You gaze at Hollowmere's chimneys, puffing sleepily, its clock tower ticking backward with quiet confidence. The crescent moon above glows familiar, like a promise you forgot you made. And as you close your eyes, you feel a softness settle in your chest. What you carried is lighter, what you gained brighter. Good night, dear traveler of stories. May your dreams be folded gently like well-loved pages in the book you now live.